Today's video is a bit different. It's something that you may or may not have thought of, but what I'm going to suggest to you is have a look at it, and if you take anything from it on board, and maybe take up the suggestion of building a map of resources in your local area. You may or may not have to use it in times of trouble, but if you do have that knowledge and you have a map of your local area, it's going to be a better resource to have now than later. You have a vehicle you can drive with around now and see all the district, and you probably ignore the things that are there, like a honey producing bee farm, or poultry, or pigs, or someone with cattle. They're all handy to know for the future if things go bad in our planet, and we have to be honest, things aren't going well now. So I'm not a doomsayer. I'm not saying these things are going to turn bad now or in the near future. I'm just saying if you're prepared, you've got an opportunity to have a map that has all of the resources on it. So please take a look at it, and if you're interested at all, do one yourself. Thanks for watching. Alright, this is a map of part of my southwest state in Western Australia, but this is to be an example of what I'm trying to explain to you. You've got where you live here. I've just put it down as homestead. And you get to know your surrounding areas, and I'm going to show you the 20-mile rule that I'm basing what I'm trying to tell you to do, if you can do this. A particular town is 20 miles away from this homestead. This town is 20 miles from that homestead, and all the way down here to the coast it is 52 miles. It's all relative to understand these distances, because if you don't have a vehicle to drive these distances, to give an idea, if there's a couple of people with a cart, and let's say you've got a donkey, whatever you've got in the way of transport to pull it, a 20-mile journey can be done quite comfortably within 2 days, and if you needed to do it quicker, you could. But you'll also see, and I'll just zoom in a little bit, you'll see some of the areas around the homestead that I've marked, and these are just coded. Now these could be things like someone with beehives, someone may have a chicken farm, there may be somebody that actually does other resources, maybe there's manufacturing in the area that does all sorts of things. But this means that you'll get to understand, and if you draft a map like this and you end up in a situation where you know where all these resources are now, this is what I'm trying to explain. You have the opportunity to know in distances how long it will take you, even if you have to walk. Maybe you're only doing a trade with someone, say over here, which is like 15 miles away from your homestead. Well, you could probably do that comfortably within a day if you've got a backpack and you've got certain items that you're going to trade and exchange for others, and probably stay overnight and then work your way back the next day. Understanding your local river systems, if you've got river systems around you, maybe there's a spring in this area with pure water. It may be something that you'll take on board because the water that you have may not be the best. What I'm really saying overall is to actually produce a map of your area, a resources map, so you at any given time in the future, if things don't go well on our planet and there's total chaos breakout and you get to the point where you have to start trading again instead of buying. There is no shops with things that you're used to buying, but there are resources in your local area. So, and to give you an idea, a trip from the homestead down to the ocean is about 52 miles. So that means that's probably a good week-long trek there and back if I want to, say, manufacture salt and make my way back. You would also do, on the way back, you'd probably visit other areas and do different trading, or set up trading areas where people say, well, when you have, say, some vegetables and you have other produce that we need and we can exchange it with honey or wine even, it doesn't really matter. But what does matter is understanding your local area, and that gives you a great deal of confidence in the future. Like I say, I'm not a doomsayer and the world's going to end, but we have to be honest. The world is changing from what we know it, and if the power grid went down or some catastrophe occurred, well, it's a case of, if you know all this now and you know where all your resources are, you're in a much better position than just guessing. You know, you might know in your district there's a honey producing bee farm, but you're not quite sure. Well, it doesn't take you too long to gain the knowledge, work out the distances between each trading area, and they will become trading. They're not going to give you stuff for free, but you may have stuff that you produce that is of value to other people. A good example is salt. Maybe this person at this homestead produces a ton of salt each month and distributes it to different people around the area. Or they will trade with you goods in exchange for your salt. But it is going back in time as far as, you know, instead of using fiat currency to buy at the shop what you want, you now have to produce something instead of just consuming. So you've got to produce products that you can trade. There's lots of people who will understand why I'm doing this, and there'll be other people thinking I'm crazy. But you're better off having this knowledge now, living at your homestead, knowing where all of these are right now. And you can add to them if you know someone else produces something out, say down in this area, you can add another icon. And I'd have this map probably blown up on the side of a wall about 5 foot by 5 foot. And each time we find out more information, add to it. Because this is going to be how people will, if things get bad, will survive. And by working together in a community, you'll find that maybe initially after the chaos there'll be like a month or two of people not trusting each other. Believe me, in a period of time after that, there'll be people wanting to work with each other. We are going to see the worst of humanity, and we are going to be revealed the best of humanity. People helping people. But I ask you to take the time, if you can, to do your own resource map in the area that you live. I'm showing you just an example. Maybe you'll do a 30-mile radius and work on that principle. But when it comes to things like, let's say I got to this town here, and I didn't really know what was outside the area, but the people I trade with may tell me, in this district you can get this item, and in that district there's another item you can purchase, and maybe they've spoken to them. I'm giving the example of people being producers of salt. You can then make the extra trip, maybe half a day to get there and back, and exchange. Now this is not all far-fetched. This is what people used to do. When you lived in a homestead here, you would have had all this knowledge. You may not have had a map, you may just simply have walked these trails year after year. But I'm encouraging you to do something like this, because if something happens, and I think we're not living in a stabilised world at all, more than likely it can happen. But if you're prepared along the line of knowledge, and knowledge is power in regards to knowing where, who and what. There may be someone who just doesn't like you over here. Well, you don't go there. It's simple humanity that may rise, but like I say, take the time, create a resource map of your own district, and it's a safeguard. It's like an insurance policy. So if you have been watching, thank you very much, and for now, bye-bye.